Okay, I'll call the regular meeting of Quesnel City Council to order. We do recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. With respect to the agenda, there are no changes to the agenda. Just for clarification, the color copy that you have of one of the agenda items is just for color edification, and also so that the public members who are here for that item have a standalone document. So with that, approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Paul, so moved. Councillor Rudenberg, second. Any questions or comments on the agenda? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And adoption of the regular minutes of July 26th. Councillor Goulet. Councillor Runge, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right, we have royalty in the room tonight, and it's always our pleasure to recognize the handoff of the responsibilities in the Quesnel Ambassador Program. So I'm going to ask Councillor Rudenberg, who, you know, is already well ahead of the game, to come up front and to make the presentations. Rose, you have a surrogate for the Society who's going to come up and join Councillor Runge, if you would. Rudenberg. Sorry. I was looking at Naylene because we weren't sure if Naylene was going to show up, and I saw her just hiding in the back there, so Runge popped into my head. So please, if you could introduce yourself and do a little bit of introduction of the program, and you'll have to project because you're not mic'd. And for those in the gallery, this is our first in-person since COVID, so it's great to see the girls without masks and to be able to do the presentations directly. Okay, and prior to Rose, we'll gather everybody for pictures, but the girls or young women can spend a few minutes taking turns talking about the value of the program to yourselves.
Testing.
Jaeana, Dumais, and I feel like the value to this program is all the memories and friendship that comes out of it. That's truly something that I will take away, and these girls will always be in my heart, even Rose and Kara. Hi. Hi, I'm Jessie, Johal. The one thing I liked the most was meeting new people and all the new things we learned.
Hello everyone, I'm Naylene Runge, Quesnel retired ambassador of 2021. It's a bittersweet feeling. Love the program. I love the growth it gives each of the candidates, myself included. Going through it, I learned so much and was able to improve on so many of my skills. And even just recently applying for jobs, I've been able to work on my impromptu questions and answer them confidently and able to just improve and myself in abilities of putting myself out there and doing great things, meeting new people, and having wonderful experiences. I couldn't have done it without this program. And Quesnel, love it here.
Thanks, Naylene. So if you want to gather together, I'll vacate. Use this front.
Sure. I feel like I don't want to stab you with my rose.
A true testament. These ladies, despite the transition from that whole COVID piece to being actually able to be out in public, they've done an amazing job representing Quesnel, and we're truly grateful as a council for everything that they do in Quesnel and outside Quesnel, showing the best of who we are. So thank you very much, ladies.
So we'd also like to say thank you back to the City of Quesnel and introduce our new ambassadors. So for 2022, we have Miss Jaeana Crossman and Nevaeh Kueber.
Now, the City of Quesnel gives each of the new ambassadors a city jacket. Those jackets are on order. Normally, we would hopefully have them here so that you could put them on tonight, but they are on order. I guess the check's in the mail or something, is that right? Okay. So.
Anyway, and I know you guys.
Hello everyone, I am Jaeana Crossman, Quesnel Ambassador of 2022. We have done a lot of things so far in our reign, even going out of town to Penticton, and that was really fun. I'm super excited to represent Quesnel.
Hello everyone, my name is Nevaeh Kueber, Quesnel Ambassador of 2022. After our coronation, I guess it would be called, it started off very fast. We had Billy Barker Days right away, the parade there. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think it's been a good experience. And so, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
No?
Oh, I was going to say, so every year when this program starts up, the business community steps up and sponsors them. So if you at some point in time would like to sponsor a candidate, let Rose and her crew know, and they'll keep you in mind for next year's candidates. Knowing you guys are going to do a wonderful job representing Quesnel, I know you came out to the West Quesnel Night Market, and you guys have been hair straight back. So keep it up, and thank you very much to everyone for all of what you do for Quesnel. Rose, I think we have a thank you for you also. A rose for a rose. If we didn't have the person who coordinates all this, this program would not happen. So, Rose, thank you on behalf of the city for all that you do here.
Thank you, Laurent. I told Bob when I first got here tonight, I'm not going to talk because I might cry. Sierra's in the hospital, so everyone please send your prayers to my daughter in the hospital, and she has been part of this program since she became a candidate in 2014. So I do all this with the help of my daughter, and hopefully she's here with us next year.
Thank you, everybody. Rose, in the paper, did you get the pictures with the new ambassadors on it? Okay. All right, so the new.
Yeah, sorry, one more.
Okay, we'll move on to our regular business. There are no committee reports or council reports. We'll move into staff reports. And I have Director Norburn reporting on this first one, but I see the person who actually knows what's going on is here to report on it. So go ahead, Thomas.
The purpose of this report is to obtain council approval for staff to purchase and install a new fuel card reader at the Quesnel Regional Airport and for the approval of funding in the 2022 capital budget. In June of 2022, Visa announced that in October of 2022, they will no longer accept fuel card readers that do not have the chip function. It is expected that all other major credit card companies will soon follow. The airport has the M3000 model that is swipe only and would need to purchase the M4000 model that has the chip reader. M3000 model is over 20 years old. QT Pod is the current supplier and has offered a $1,500 discount for current owners of the M3000 model. Purchasing a new card reader off of QT Pod will negate having to replace the entire fuel system. Profit from fuel sales vary year to year, averaging $68,712 per year, but have been as high as $92,086 in 2017. The estimated cost for the purchase and installation of the new fuel card reader is $35,000. Our recommendation is that council approves the allocation of $35,000 from the airport surplus for the purchase and installation of a fuel card reader in 2022. Obviously, the fuel sales would be drastically impacted if the system is not upgraded to the M4000 model.
Thank you. And I have mover, Councillor Elliott moves the recommendation. Seconder, Councillor Rudenberg. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Are there any in opposition? That motion passed unanimously. Thank you for that. Next is the report on the climate action. Director Bolton.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to provide council and the public with a copy of the climate action report submitted by the city for 2021. So in 2022, the provincial government launched a new local government climate action program, which provides local governments predictable and stable funding to support the implementation of local climate action that reduces emissions and prepares communities for the impacts of changing climate. In 2022, the city will receive $107,000 to support these initiatives. We'll review the projects during budget time. The city is required to give 20% towards the projects, but that can be staff time or additional funding on those projects. So part of the requirements for this program is that the city shares publicly the attached report on the city's actions and the attestation form. So the city's greenhouse gases were 1,160 carbon tons in 2021, a decrease of 7.9% from the previous year, largely due to less diesel used because it was a light snow year. So this report is just for information, and you can read the survey submission that talks about all the actions we did this year.
Thank you, Director Bolton. Are there any questions or comments on the report? I just have one. I notice it's predominantly gasoline and diesel that are down. The note here is because of a lighter snow year, the diesel's down. Are we tracking the fleet replacement and any additional efficiencies we're getting from replacing our fleet vehicles?
I think at this point it's still too early. We're having a difficult time getting those new vehicles. They're just starting to come online, so it'll be some time before, but we do track our usage by vehicle, so we'll be able to look in the future.
Right, and then for this budget cycle, because I think we parked the GPS discussion, right? Is that part of this program?
We went forward with that project. The GPS has been installed in our...
In all of them?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Super. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Runge.
Yes, thank you. Carrie, my question is it possible to also get numbers prior to 2020? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, we did have some major increases, but if you look at 2020, that was a COVID year. Do we have like 2019? Because I'd love to compare 2019 to 2021 to see if we're actually where we're trending without COVID.
Yeah, so we've actually been tracking this for quite a few years because there was the CAREP grant before this program. So I do have some of the history, so I can send a note to council and let them know what the history has been over the last few years.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, that's an information item only. Moving to item number 3, the zoning amendment bylaw 1982 for first reading and set the public hearing date. And prior to turning it over to Director Turner, I want to make a couple of opening comments because I know most of the people in the room are here for that item. So I want to be very clear that tonight is not the public hearing. So you have the opportunity to come at gallery questions at the end of the meeting and ask questions regarding process, but not regarding the actual proposal or the substance of the proposal, because you'll see in the report, and Director Turner will go through the report, all the opportunities that the public will have to engage directly with the proponent. I also want to make some process items clear. You have to be quiet, sir. Okay? So I want to make it clear what the process is that we're involved in so that you understand the nature of what first reading is and setting a public hearing date. BC Housing may be a function of the provincial government, but as far as any community is concerned, it's a developer. And all developers, whether public or private lands, have the right to propose development of those lands to local government. And councils have to be very wary of using their power of dismissing a development out of hand. That is, not taking it to first reading. First reading is simply putting the development on the table for public consultation, discussion, and debate, and allowing the public to speak to council about that development. BC Housing in our community has made substantive investments. Silver Manor, our seniors care facility, is our independent seniors living facility, is a BC Housing development in conjunction with the Lions Club. Kickenaw, across from Dairy Queen, is a BC Housing development. On Front Street, Milestone Manor, and the new one that's going up is a BC Housing development. And of course, Elliott Street, the Bridges development, and Seasons House. So BC Housing has been in our community for quite some time. Now, contrary to some of the rumors that are out there, this council has made no decision on the proposal in front of us. It's coming to the public for the first time. It's coming to the public in a way that council can take a look at it and give the public a look at it, and then council can make a determination tonight whether or not it should proceed for public consultation. First reading by law simply enables it to be tabled and to be discussed. If we don't do first reading, if we say to a proponent, go out and just talk to the community, then we don't actually cause the proponent or the developer to formalize their submission in a way that we can hold them accountable to. So that's the fundamental difference. So you'll see in our presentation package tonight that BC Housing has had to outline what their intent is for the property that they're interested in, what the nature of the client group would be, what some of the things that they are trying to address. That does not happen if we didn't say we're taking it to first reading. They could just go out and say anything to the community and then come back to us. So we forced the formalization of the proposal to the community, but it does not impinge on council to do anything except give it to the community for feedback. Council doesn't start locking in a path forward for any development, public or private, until second reading, and in particular, third reading. So second and third reading will not occur until the public consultation process has finished and we've held a public hearing in this room. Then a specific vote will come back to council, and that will be the first time the public will see council's leanings on any development, including this one. Okay, so I want to make it clear that that's all that's happening tonight, is that council has the opportunity to say this is a proposal worth hearing from the public about, and giving BC Housing, a developer, the opportunity to engage with the public. Now, the other piece for council that I want the public to be aware of is that this is the very issue, social housing, supportive housing, mental health, and addictions, that I would say is keeping pretty much every mayor and every council up at night, because it is a national issue. It's an issue in every community, and it's a very complicated one that has multiple traps for councils. As a local government, we're the closest to the ground, and we're the ones that wear whatever the inadequacies are in the provincial support system. But one of the things that we're dealing with as local government just now, and if you walked on the Riverfront Trail, you'll see that there's encampments there. There's lots of people in our community who think we should just get in there and take those down. There are people around us. You need to be quiet, sir, or I'll have you removed. Then please leave. We're adjourned until this individual is removed.
What you need to do is have it so that every
You need to leave.
vote on this. No, you'll see me again.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll reconvene. So the complexity of the issue for us is around the legality of these situations. And if you're listening to the news at all, one of the issues that local governments have is that if there is insufficient, adequate housing, the courts are ruling in favor of individuals squatting and setting up tents and setting up encampments wherever they want to. We have no control over that. That's what's going on. The courts are making decisions about the adequacy of the housing and the sufficiency of the supply. I would hope that those of you in this room have paid attention to the Prince George case, where Prince George had to back off decamping individuals because the court ruled that the local government in particular, as well as other agencies, were not providing sufficient housing and adequate housing. Court rulings, and we are a legal body, we have to go by what the courts are saying about our jurisdiction and our authority. Court rulings are not going in favor of local governments. They're going in favor of individuals who are setting up encampments throughout communities. Ruling after ruling after ruling. There's only been a couple that have actually ruled in favor of local government because they've believed, the court, the judge, believed that the local government, BC Housing, and the province were providing adequate housing, and therefore the individual's needs for housing could be met in the housing supply that was available. The other piece that the courts are making decisions on is the adequacy of the housing. The courts have been very clear that high barrier shelter, so shelters with rules, are insufficient to meet the needs of individuals who are camping in communities. They've made that very clear. So our dilemma in this community is that we have a shelter that has been known for many, many years now to be oversubscribed. We have Elliott Street, or Bridges, which is a 24/7 supportive housing for low barrier, so individuals that have high needs, has been oversubscribed since the day it opened its doors. And that if we as a community want to be able to deal with what we're seeing with these encampments showing up in our community, we have to show due diligence in every respect on every investment offered to us by BC Housing. So if this council decides tonight, which is its right, to not take this to first reading, to not engage the public in the dialogue around the complexity of this issue, we weaken our ability as a council to deal with what we're seeing on our streets. I want everybody to be crystal clear about that. So tonight, the discussion is merely whether or not this proposal from BC Housing, the proponent, will go to the public for discussion. That's it. And then this council will have an opportunity to hear the summary of those discussions and to have its own public hearing in this chamber on a date that will be set. After that, this council will start to then make decisions on the basis of what they think is in the best interest of the community long term, but not tonight. So I wanted to be clear about that. So if you're here with questions, if you're here with concerns about the proposal, between now and the public hearing, you will have the opportunity, and Director Turner will go through that opportunity, to speak directly to the proponent. Council's not the proponent. So make note of and calendarize those opportunities so that you can speak directly to BC Housing. And then at the public hearing date, if you want to express any concerns, support for the project, or opposed to the project, you will have that opportunity at the due date and due time to speak directly to council. So with that preface, I will turn over to Director Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. BC Housing advised they are seeking dollars from the provincial program Permanent Housing Plan to provide permanent housing for vulnerable persons temporarily housed as part of BC's COVID response plan. The funds are provided for the acquisition and renovation of hotels. This funding must be utilized by March 31st, 2023, which is why this process has been undertaken and is moving through this process with council at this time. BC Housing references that recently completed homelessness counts and the wait list for supportive housing are justifications for directing this funding to Quesnel. In addition, the problematic siting of the current shelter on the corner of Highway 97 raises a number of additional externalities. See attached justification letter from BC Housing for more information in terms of what their program is, outline is, and their justifications. In April, BC Housing staff requested city staff assist in evaluating 4 potential sites to direct this funding. The current Ramada site was identified as a 5th option later in this evaluation due to differing issues with the other sites, including they were not available for purchase, there was inadequate capacity in layout, lack of proximity to community transport, lack of accessibility and transportation, and/or purchasing timeline and renovation required for those properties. There's a bunch of land policy review listed from the official community plan that states out the justifications as to why we, as the mayor stated, are obligated to go through this process and look at it. We do have a number of policies that direct us to look at these sorts of opportunities. The uses of supportive housing and emergency shelter are currently not permitted on the proposed site, and as such, a zoning amendment is required, allowing for this public process. A draft bylaw making this amendment is attached. Note that the amendment to add these uses to the site will also be removed from the current site for emergency shelter on Carson. Of course, that's removing it as a zoning designation for future uses. We have also received commitment from BC Housing that these uses will cease once the other property is, and if the other property is established. The proposed site is approximately 3 times the size of the current shelter site with significantly more outdoor space. This outdoor space is almost completely bounded by the 3 buildings on the site and provides more than 45 hotel rooms and common spaces, as well as landscaping and fencing. These are thought as beneficial in that it'll move individuals from shelter-type living, which they stay in the shelter overnight, to permanent housing facilities. BC Housing staff have advised that they have engaged a design team and will be conducting a site analysis that will advise the recommended improvements to the site. These renovations and site plans must be completed and ready for council review prior to final adoption of the bylaw as per the city's development procedures bylaw. BC Housing will be engaging with stakeholders and completing a number of community consultation activities. The results of these activities will be reported back to council by BC Housing on September 6th. The The process is intended to include the launch of digital and social media to make sure there's a complete awareness in the community, BC Housing news releases, the start of an engagement period where they'll be having a website for live discussion, forum and survey live. Neighborhood letters will be mailed out to all property owners in North Quesnel and commercial properties. Stakeholder meetings will begin August 15th to 29th. This will be to the various, like the Downtown Business Association. I'm also identifying a number of other agencies and groups that we'd like them to contact directly. There will be pop-up engagements on Spirit Square. This actually says public library, but we've advised them that we'd prefer it to be on Spirit Square due to room on both days. So they will be having 2 days of public engagement where they will have BC Housing representatives on site to discuss with the community. There's going to be some additional newspaper ads, and they will develop a summary of all of these sessions and report to council, again, like I said, on September 6th at an open council meeting. Following this, council may continue on with second reading and continue to move towards the public hearing. And our process at this point, just a draft process, would have that September 6th consultation period. And then we would do notices for the public hearing. So the public hearing we're proposing be set for September 13th to make sure the community has a wide understanding of the date that's going to be there. And we will be doing a mail out and newspaper ads as always as well for that. And at that point, that's where this kind of ends at this point in terms of the consultation. The recommendation is that council, under the bylaw section of the agenda, provides first reading to the bylaw and sets the public hearing date for Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Director Turner. Okay, over to council. And again, I just wanted to remind council, this is not a discussion of the substance of the proposal at this point. It's whether or not council wishes to have BC Housing do the public engagement and set the public hearing date. So comments, questions, Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the report. I do have one concern regarding the process, and that is that the public consultation process being conducted by BC Housing is completely within the summer break period. And I would be in favor of asking, or actually demanding, that BC Housing extend that public consultation process into early September so that we get people back from holidays and we've got school back in and people can really address this seriously.
So, yeah, please don't. Please adhere to the decorum, okay? Thank you. So, Councillor Paul, as you well know, one of the aspects of this is the nature of the funding. It's part of BC Housing constraints. The other piece, though, is that council can determine the sufficiency of the public consultation at the time of the public hearing and require the proponent to go back out again. We've done that in the past, right? So, you know, BC Housing will go out. If they report to us nobody showed at Spirit Centre, they couldn't get a hold of the Downtown Association. I know the Downtown Association is very active around this file, come back to us and we believe that that consultation has been inadequate, we can extend the consultation period. So we have that opportunity as well.
Well, I hope that we will extend the consultation.
Again, that's presumptive of the nature of the engagement.
I don't want a gun held to my head that says that we're not going to get the funding if we don't extend the consultation process.
So, understood. I'm just clarifying process. We have the right to extend that and demand that extension. And if that time it doesn't work for BC Housing's timeline, they can walk away with the money. So both of us have that opportunity to use a gun, to put it in that euphemism. Okay. Okay. Other comments or questions? Councillor Runge.
Thank you. So my question is actually a simple question, I think, to Tanya. Tanya, on page 23 of 63 on the consultation activities, I just need a clarification of that to be discussed aside specifics at the Feb 2nd meeting.
Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor Runge? I didn't
So
hear
on
you.
page 4 or 5 of your report, more or less, fourth box from the bottom going up, or fifth box, I'm sorry, on the consultation activities?
Yeah, so the answer is that that's what's in the above. So the specifics of the consultation, that was just the time, our internal timeline of how it will go through our process. But the specifics to be discussed at the meeting are actually the items above, starting August 11th through to September 6th.
Thank you.
Councillor Goulet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm just curious, and maybe it'll come out in the consultation process, but is there an opportunity, I know that there was 4 other potential sites that were mentioned or looked at in relation to this. Do you know if BC Housing will put that forward as to, at the public consultations? I know I'm into the weeds on this, but I'm just thinking for clarity and openness that they did pursue other.
They will definitely talk about pursuing other venues, yes.
Okay, other questions or comments by council? Seeing none, on the recommendation to proceed to first reading and set our public hearing date. So the first reading process assumes BC Housing will conduct their consultation process. And to set the public hearing date, let me just make sure I've got that clear, September 13th. In council chambers at 6 p.m. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Elliott, seconder. Councillor Rudenberg. The motion's on the floor. Councillor Paul, did you?
Yes, I have a question. I'm okay with this, but if the consultation process is extended, as I'm pushing for, can we therefore push the public hearing date back to accommodate?
Again, I think we get the report on the 6th, right? So we can make that determination on the 6th.
So just to be clear, the public hearing date is flexible?
No, the public hearing date will be set tonight, and then we can negate the public hearing date on the 13th if we believe that the consultation has been insufficient.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, I have nobody on my speakers list. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Goulet? Okay, thank you. Thanks, staff. Next, item number 4, City of Quesnel Tax Exempting Amendment Bylaw. Director Bolton.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to seek council's approval of the City of Quesnel 2020 to 2023 Tax Exempting Amendment Bylaw, No. 1926 of 2022. So the attached bylaw is just a housekeeping amendment to the tax exempting bylaw. It's for the Spirit Square location. Because the tenants have changed over time and we actually had them listed in the bylaw, BC Assessment has asked that we just make it more general, more clear, so that whenever there's nonprofits or municipal uses there, that it's exempt. So the recommendation is that council approve the first 3 readings of the City of Quesnel 2020 to 2023 Tax Exempting Amendment Bylaw, number 1926 of 2022, in the bylaw section of the agenda.
On the recommendation, Councillor Rudenberg so moved. Councillor Goulet second. All in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried unanimously. Next item, the latecomer policy and strata conversion. Director Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to consider adoption of a latecomer policy and a strata conversion policy. The latecomer policy previous was adopted June 10th, 1996, and the strata conversion policy was adopted in 2007 and are expired due to the requirement to review every 10 years. During the mass update of policy, it was determined that these policies would wait for review and consideration after the adoption of the Development Services Bylaw. Review and consideration has now been completed by staff and reviewed at the Policy and Bylaw Bylaw Committee. Changes to the latecomer policy include legislation references updates, increase to 15 years for latecomer expiration date, and update to zones required zones as there were previous zones in the old bylaw, as the zoning bylaw has changed. The strata conversion policy was updated by adding a provision to allow the Director of Development Services to bring individual cases to council where it is felt that strict adherence to the policy would not be in the public interest. The recommendation is that Council adopts the latecomer policy CCR-26 and that Council adopts strata conversion policy CCR-25.
Okay, on the recommendation, Councillor Runge, Councillor Vic, second. Any questions or comments? Councillor Paul.
Thank you to staff for this. I read through the thing in its entirety, and as I was reading through it, I was wondering, was this in there before, or has this particular paragraph changed? And I guess where I'm coming from, that what I'm used to is seeing a document where there's a note that says that this subject or this particular subsection has been changed or deleted or added. And maybe what I should have done is had the old policy to sort of compare with. I guess my question is, are the changes substantive or are they basically housekeeping?
Housekeeping and everything I just listed.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, we get the agendas early so that queries like that can be clarified. So feel free to get in touch with Director Turner prior to the meeting so you can get that clarification that you need. Okay, on the recommendation, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to bylaws. Bylaw 1926, City of Quesnel, tax exempting amendment, first, second, and third readings. Can I have a motion? Councillor Vic, Councillor Runge, so moved. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Bylaw 1768, Quesnel Road Closure and Dedication Removal Bylaw, third reading. Councillor Elliott, so moved. Councillor Rudenberg, second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And then Bylaw 1928, City of Quesnel Zoning Amendment Bylaw, first reading, setting the public hearing date for September 13th, as per our discussion earlier. Councillor Elliott, so moved. Councillor Runge, second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay. Now, where are we at? No changes to upcoming meetings, no changes to committee appointments, any announcements or future events? Councillor Paul.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder that yesterday at 10 o'clock at the Senior Center, the in-person registrations opened for the Rotary Club Seniors Expedition to Barkerville, our 57th annual. And I know that it's going to fill up fast, but we're asking people to please sign up in person rather than phoning the Senior Center. We do have a number that if there's shut-ins or someone can't get down to the Senior Center, that they can get in touch with us. So we're looking forward to it. And we're arranging good weather.
And just for clarification, you're putting them in a bus, right? Not wagons. Like expedition suggests it may be a bit more onerous.
Actually, the word used to be trek, which was worse. So expedition kind of modernized.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Paul. Any other announcements, future events? Any gallery questions? Seeing none. I would ask for a motion to adjourn. We'd take a 5-minute recess and then reconvene. Councillor Rudenberg, Councillor Paul, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.